Laziness does not arrive loudly. It comes quietly, wearing comfort as its disguise. It tells you there is time later, that today has been hard, that rest is deserved before effort. And before you realize it, days pass, opportunities fade, and potential stays untouched. Laziness is not harmless. It slowly steals the life you could have lived. Understand this clearly. Laziness is not the absence of energy, intelligence, or opportunity. It is the refusal to use what you already have. You know what needs to be done. You have known it for a long time. Problem is not awareness. The problem is action. Laziness trains you to obey your weakest impulses. When the body says stop, you stop. When the mind says delay, you delay. Over time, this obedience becomes a habit. You begin to live reactively, controlled by comfort, ruled by excuses. This is how people lose control of their own lives without even noticing. Killing laziness does not require anger or dramatic change. It requires discipline. Discipline is choosing what is right over what is easy. It is doing the work when no one is watching. It is moving forward when motivation is absent. Motivation is unreliable. Discipline is not. Every day you are faced with a choice. Stay comfortable or grow stronger. Avoid discomfort or build resilience. Laziness always offers the easier option. Growth never does. That is why most people remain where they are, dreaming instead of building. Do not wait to feel ready. Readiness is a myth created by fear. Action creates readiness. Strength is built after effort, not before it. If you wait until you feel confident, disciplined, or inspired, you will wait forever. Laziness feeds on excuses. Excuses sound intelligent. They sound reasonable. They sound responsible. But excuses produce nothing. Results come only from consistent effort, repeated even when it feels boring, tiring, or uncomfortable. Your future is shaped by what you repeatedly do when you do not feel like doing anything. Small actions matter. Waking up when you said you would, finishing tasks you want to abandon, choosing effort over distraction. These moments define your character. Pain will be part of the process. Accept it. The pain of discipline is temporary. The pain of regret lasts far longer. Every time you avoid effort, you are choosing regret in advance. Every time you act despite resistance, you are reclaiming control. Laziness weakens self-respect. Each broken promise to yourself chips away at confidence. Discipline restores it. Every completed action rebuilds trust with yourself. This trust is the foundation of strength. Stop negotiating with your weakness. Weakness does not deserve discussion. It deserves resistance. The moment you argue with laziness, you have already given it power. Act first. Think later. You are capable of more than you are allowing yourself to become. Your limits are not fixed, they are trained. Train them daily. Demand more from yourself than comfort demands from you. Kill your laziness before it kills your potential. Not once, but every day. Not through words, but through action. Not tomorrow, but now. Laziness is often misunderstood as a problem of time. People say they are too busy, too overwhelmed, or too exhausted to do what they know they should be doing. Yet, when examined honestly, time is rarely the real issue. Everyone is given the same 24 hours each day. The difference lies not in how much time people have, but in how they choose to use it. Laziness is not the absence of time, it is the absence of discipline. Discipline is the ability to act according to what is necessary rather than what is comfortable. Laziness, on the other hand, surrendering to comfort while pretending that circumstances are to blame. When someone claims they do not have time to exercise, learn a skill, or work on their goals, they often still find time for distractions. Hours disappear into scrolling, entertainment, gossip, or unnecessary rest. These activities are not inherently wrong, but they reveal a truth: time exists, but discipline does not. A disciplined person does not wait for ideal conditions. They understand that life will never be perfectly organized or calm. Will always be responsibilities, stress, and fatigue. Discipline means acting despite these conditions. Laziness waits for motivation. Discipline moves without it. Motivation is unstable and emotional, rising and falling depending on mood. Discipline is stable and intentional, rooted in commitment rather than feeling. Laziness thrives when the mind seeks immediate comfort. The human brain is naturally wired to avoid pain and effort. Discipline is the skill of training the mind to tolerate discomfort for the sake of long-term growth. Waking up early, focusing deeply, exercising regularly, or practicing a difficult craft all require effort that does not provide instant pleasure. Laziness avoids this effort and disguises avoidance as rational thinking. I'll do it tomorrow, I'm not ready yet, or I work better under pressure are not facts, they are excuses that protect comfort. Time management techniques often fail lazy behavior because the problem is not scheduling self-control. A person can create the most perfect plan and still ignore it. Discipline is what turns plans into actions. Without discipline, goals remain ideas and intentions remain empty promises. Discipline is choosing to act when no one is watching, when there is no reward except self-respect. Laziness also grows when people underestimate the power of small actions. Believe meaningful progress requires large amounts of time and energy, so they delay starting altogether. Discipline understands that small, consistent actions compound over time. Minutes of focused effort each day is more powerful than waiting months for a free afternoon that never comes. Laziness waits for big opportunities. Discipline uses small moments. Another reason laziness hides behind time is fear. Fear of failure, fear of discomfort, fear of discovering limitations. By saying, I don't have time, people avoid confronting these fears. Discipline requires honesty. It forces a person to admit, I am avoiding this because it is hard, and then act anyway. Honesty is uncomfortable, but it is essential for growth. Modern life makes laziness easier to justify. Constant notifications, endless entertainment, and instant gratification weaken attention and patience. Discipline in such an environment is not automatic. It must be trained deliberately. Just as muscles weaken without resistance, discipline fades without practice. Every time a person chooses distraction over responsibility, laziness strengthens. Every time they choose effort over comfort, discipline grows. Laziness also affects identity. When people repeatedly avoid what they know they should do, they begin to see themselves as incapable or unmotivated. This self-image reinforces lazy behavior. Discipline reverses this cycle. Each disciplined action, no matter how small, builds trust in oneself. Over time, this trust becomes confidence. Confidence makes discipline easier to sustain. It is important to understand that discipline is not punishment. It is not about being harsh or denying all pleasure. Discipline is structure that creates freedom. Disciplined person gains control over their time, energy, and direction. Laziness feels comfortable in the moment. It creates long-term stress, regret, and dependency. Discipline feels uncomfortable in the moment, but it builds independence and inner strength. When someone says they lack time, the real question is whether they are willing to prioritize discomfort over ease. Time bends to priorities. What truly matters is done even under pressure. What does not is postponed indefinitely. Discipline is the ability to decide what matters and honor that decision through action. Laziness is not cured by inspiration alone. It is cured by repetition. Repeating disciplined behavior until it becomes part of one's nature. This process is slow and often invisible, which is why many abandon it. Laziness promises quick relief. Discipline promises slow transformation. Those who choose discipline understand that becoming stronger is worth the effort, even when progress feels minimal. Ultimately, Laziness is a habit of avoidance, not a shortage of hours. Discipline is a habit of responsibility, not a burst of motivation. When discipline is present, time is found. When discipline is absent, time is lost. The difference between stagnation and growth is not the clock. The willingness to act when comfort demands stillness and excuses offer shelter. The human mind is meant to lead, not to be led by comfort. Yet for many people, comfort has quietly taken control, guiding daily decisions, shaping habits, and limiting potential. Comfort feels safe, familiar, and pleasant, but it is also deceptive. Convinces the mind to avoid effort, resist change, and delay responsibility. When comfort leads, growth stops. When the mind leads, transformation begins. The mind has the unique ability to choose purpose over pleasure. It can see beyond the present moment and understand long-term consequences. Comfort, however, exists only in the present. It seeks ease now, regardless of the cost later. When a person allows comfort to guide their actions, they trade future strength for temporary relief. The mind, when properly trained, recognizes this trade and refuses it. Leading with the mind requires awareness. Many people believe they are making conscious choices, when in reality they are reacting to discomfort. Fatigue, boredom, fear, and resistance silently influence decisions. Skipping a workout, delaying a task, or avoiding a difficult conversation often feels justified in the moment. Comfort provides convincing reasons. The mind must learn to observe these impulses without obeying them. Discipline is the bridge that allows the mind to lead. Without discipline, the mind knows what is right but lacks the power to act. With discipline, thoughts turn into behavior. Discipline teaches the mind to give instructions that the body follows, even when comfort protests. This relationship is not built overnight. It is formed through repeated acts of choosing effort over ease. Comfort is not evil, but it is dangerous when it becomes the authority. Rest is necessary, but indulgence weakens resolve. Enjoyment is healthy, but excess dulls ambition. When comfort dictates routine, life becomes smaller. Challenges are avoided, standards are lowered, and potential remains unused. The mind must constantly reclaim control by setting boundaries around comfort. One of the greatest illusions comfort creates is the belief that one should act only when they feel ready. Readiness is rare. Waiting to feel prepared often means waiting forever. The mind understands that action creates readiness, not the other way around. Growth comes from doing the work before confidence appears, from moving forward while still uncertain. The body is a powerful servant, but a poor master. It seeks rest, pleasure, and safety. If the body leads, effort feels unbearable and discipline feels cruel. When the mind leads, effort becomes training and discipline becomes self-respect. The mind reframes discomfort as a necessary part of progress rather than something to be escaped. Modern life constantly encourages comfort to take control. Technology offers instant gratification, distraction, and convenience. Every desire can be met with minimal effort. This environment makes mental leadership more difficult but also more important. Without intentional control, the mind becomes passive and reactive, pulled in every direction by external stimulation. Training the mind to lead begins with small decisions, waking up when planned, finishing tasks even when tired, maintaining focus despite distraction. These moments seem insignificant, but they are critical. Each time the mind gives a command and follows through, leadership is strengthened. Each time comfort overrules intention, leadership weakens. Fear often disguises itself as comfort. Avoiding difficulty can feel like self-care, but it is often self-protection. The mind must learn to distinguish between genuine rest and avoidance. True self-respect involves facing challenges that build capability. Comfort avoids exposure. The mind seeks growth. When the mind leads, life becomes intentional. Time is used with purpose rather than wasted on impulse. Energy is directed rather than scattered. Goals are pursued steadily rather than abandoned at the first sign of resistance. Comfort may still exist, but it no longer controls decisions. It becomes a reward, not a ruler. Mental leadership also requires responsibility. Blaming circumstances, people, or luck is a comfort-based habit. It removes pressure, but also removes power. The mind that leads accepts responsibility even when situations are unfair. This acceptance is not weakness, it is strength. Responsibility gives control, and control allows change. Over time, leading with the mind reshapes identity. A person begins to see themselves as someone who acts with intention rather than impulse. Self-image reinforces discipline and reduces dependence on motivation. Comfort loses its grip because the mind no longer negotiates with it. The greatest internal battle is not between success and failure, but between intention and ease. Comfort will always offer an easier path, but the mind must choose the meaningful one. Every day presents this choice in countless small moments. Outcome of life is determined not by grand decisions, but by these repeated internal victories. When the mind leads, comfort becomes familiar and manageable. It no longer signals danger, but progress. Comfort no longer defines happiness, purpose does. A life guided by the mind is not necessarily easier, but it is stronger, clearer, and more aligned with true potential. The mind was never meant to follow comfort. It was meant to command direction, shape character, and drive action forward regardless of how comfortable the moment feels. Big excuses are rarely dramatic. They are quiet, reasonable, and convincing. They sound responsible, intelligent, and practical. They explain why something cannot be done today and promise it will be done later. Over time, these excuses grow larger, not because the obstacles increase, but because inaction strengthens them. Small daily actions are the only force that can weaken and eventually defeat these excuses. People often believe that change requires a powerful event, a surge of motivation, or a complete transformation of routine. This belief itself becomes an excuse. Waiting for the perfect moment delays progress indefinitely. Small actions remove this delay by lowering the barrier to entry. They do not ask for confidence, courage, or inspiration. Ask only for movement. Excuses survive on exaggeration. A task feels overwhelming when viewed as a whole. Writing a book, getting fit, mastering a skill, or changing a habit appears too large to face. The mind inflates the effort required and retreats. Small daily actions shrink the task to something manageable. One page, one workout, one focused session dismantles the illusion of impossibility. Consistency matters more than intensity. Big efforts done rarely create emotional highs, but produce little long-term change. Small actions repeated daily create momentum. Momentum is dangerous to excuses because it removes the need for negotiation. When an action becomes part of a routine, excuses have no space to argue. The decision has already been made. Excuses are often rooted in identity. People tell themselves they are not disciplined, not talented, not motivated. These beliefs feel permanent and justify inaction. Small daily actions challenge these identities quietly. Each completed action provides evidence that the excuse is false. Over time, identity shifts not through affirmation, but through proof. The mind resists large commitments because failure feels costly. If the goal is big, falling short feels like confirmation of weakness. Small actions reduce the emotional risk. Failing to act for 5 minutes feels less threatening than failing an entire plan. This reduction in pressure makes starting easier, and starting is what defeats excuses. Daily actions also build awareness. Excuses thrive in vagueness. I'll start soon, or I'll do it when I'm ready. Lack clarity. A small daily action forces specificity. It defines when, where, and how something will be done. Clarity removes ambiguity, and without ambiguity, excuses lose their hiding place. Time is often used as the strongest excuse. People claim they do not have enough of it. Small actions expose this claim. Everyone can find a few minutes. When progress is made in short intervals, the time excuse collapses. The issue is no longer availability, willingness. Small actions train discipline without overwhelming it. Discipline is like a muscle that strengthens with use and weakens with neglect. Asking for too much too soon leads to exhaustion and retreat. Small daily actions provide manageable resistance. Each repetition strengthens the ability to act despite discomfort. Excuses also depend on emotion. When feelings are low, action feels impossible. Small actions do not require emotional readiness. They are neutral. They can be done regardless of mood. This neutrality is powerful. It teaches the mind that action is not dependent on feeling good, confident, or inspired. Progress created by small actions is often invisible at first. This invisibility tempts people to quit. Excuses return, claiming the effort is pointless. But small actions work beneath the surface. Skills sharpen, habits form, and confidence grows quietly. When results finally appear, they seem sudden, but they are the outcome of accumulated effort. Small actions create structure. Structure reduces decision fatigue. When actions are scheduled and expected, the mind does not debate whether to act. Debate is where excuses are born. Structure turns action into obligation rather than choice, and obligation is harder to ignore. Perfectionism is another large excuse disguised as high standards. People delay starting because conditions are not ideal. Small actions reject perfection. They accept imperfection and focus on progress. Imperfect action is still action, and action is what weakens excuses. Over time, small daily actions change the relationship with effort. Effort becomes familiar rather than intimidating. What once felt difficult becomes routine. Excuses lose emotional impact because the task no longer feels threatening. The mind stops searching for reasons to avoid and starts expecting follow-through. Big excuses promise comfort. They offer rest, safety, and relief from responsibility. Small actions offer something better: control. Control over direction, habits, and self-respect. Each small action is a decision to move forward rather than remain stuck. The power of small daily actions lies not in their size, but in their refusal to negotiate. They show up every day regardless of conditions. They do not argue with excuses. They outlast them. Excuses depend on delay. Small actions depend on presence. When presence is consistent, excuses have nowhere to grow and nothing to feed on. Pain is an unavoidable part of being human. It appears in many forms: physical strain, mental fatigue, emotional discomfort, and fear of failure. People spend much of their lives trying to avoid pain, believing that a painless path will lead to happiness and security. In reality, avoiding pain often leads to something far heavier and longer-lasting: regret. Pain passes with time, but regret settles quietly and remains. Pain is usually tied to effort. It comes from pushing limits, learning something difficult, facing truth, or stepping into uncertainty. Pain is sharp but temporary. The body adapts, the mind adjusts, and what once felt unbearable becomes manageable. Regret, however, is not tied to effort but to avoidance. It grows from moments when action was possible but not taken. These moments replay themselves long after the discomfort would have faded. Temporary pain has a purpose. It signals growth, adaptation, and change. Muscles ache when they are being strengthened. The mind strains when it is expanding beyond old limits. Emotional pain often marks the breaking of old patterns. Though unpleasant, this pain moves forward. Regret moves backward, keeps the mind trapped in the past, replaying choices that can no longer be changed. People often overestimate the intensity and duration of pain. The mind imagines worst case scenarios and magnifies discomfort before it even arrives. This anticipation becomes an excuse to delay or avoid action. In contrast, regret is rarely imagined clearly. Its weight is understood only after time has passed, when opportunities are gone and options are limited. Pain demands presence. When experiencing it, attention is focused on the moment. Regret demands memory, pulls attention away from the present and anchors it to what could have been. This difference affects quality of life. Pain can be worked through, managed, and eventually released. Regret has no clear endpoint. Many life decisions revolve around this trade-off. Choosing discipline over comfort brings pain now and strength later. Choosing comfort over discipline brings ease now and regret later. Pain of waking early, practicing daily, or facing fear is short-lived. The regret of wasted potential lingers for years. Pain also carries information. It teaches boundaries, resilience, and capability. Through pain, people learn what they can endure and how much they can grow. Regret teaches very little, repeats the same lesson without offering a way to apply it. Knowing what should have been done does not undo what was left undone. Avoiding pain often feels like self-protection, but it can be self-sabotage. Growth requires friction. Without resistance, nothing changes. A life built around comfort may feel safe, but it becomes narrow. Regret expands in this narrow space, filling the gaps left by missed experiences and unused abilities. Pain respects time. It arrives, peaks, and fades. Regret ignores time. It can resurface decades later with the same intensity. A single moment of avoidance can produce years of reflection and self-questioning. The pain that was avoided would have ended long before. Pain also builds confidence. Each time discomfort is faced and survived, trust in oneself grows. This trust reduces fear of future challenges. Regret does the opposite. It weakens confidence by reminding the mind of hesitation and retreat. Over time, this erodes belief in one's ability to act decisively. Is closely tied to both pain and regret. Fear of pain stops action. Fear of regret follows inaction. One fear is immediate and loud, the other is quiet and persistent. Choosing which fear to face determines long-term outcome. Facing pain strengthens courage. Living with regret strengthens doubt. Pain often comes with progress. It marks movement. Regret marks stagnation. Even painful failures contribute to growth by providing experience and clarity. Regret from inaction provides neither. It leaves only speculation about what might have happened. The temporary nature of pain makes it manageable. Knowing it will pass gives strength to endure it. Regret offers no such assurance. Its permanence lies in the fact that time moves only forward. Missed chances do not return in the same form. The cost of delay increases as life progresses. Choosing pain over regret is a conscious decision. It requires valuing long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. It means accepting discomfort as a necessary part of a meaningful life. This acceptance changes how pain is experienced. It becomes less threatening and more purposeful. People rarely regret trying and failing. Regret not trying at all. Failure contains pain, but it also contains closure. Regret remains open-ended. It questions character, courage, and intent. It asks why action was not taken when it could have been. Pain strengthens the present. Regret weakens it. Carrying regret into each new moment makes it harder to act again, creating a cycle of avoidance. Facing pain breaks this cycle by proving that discomfort can be endured and survived. The choice between pain and regret is not made once, repeatedly, in small daily moments. Each decision to act or avoid shapes the future. Pain asks for courage now. Regret demands payment later, with interest in the form of self-doubt, frustration, and longing for a past that cannot be changed. To train like a warrior, is to accept responsibility for one's own strength, discipline, and direction. To live like a victim is to wait for circumstances to improve, for motivation to arrive, or for others to provide solutions. The difference between the two is not talent, luck, or background, but mindset and daily behavior. A warrior prepares for difficulty. Victim hopes to avoid it. A warrior understands that life is unpredictable and often unfair. Rather than resisting this reality, the warrior trains to meet it. Training is not limited to the body. It includes the mind, emotions, and habits. Each challenge is approached as an opportunity to become stronger. A victim, however, sees challenges as proof of injustice. Energy is spent on complaint rather than preparation. Training like a warrior requires discipline. Discipline is the willingness to do what is necessary regardless of mood or comfort. A warrior does not wait to feel ready or inspired. Action is taken because it must be taken. A victim waits for ideal conditions and uses their absence as justification for inaction. Warriors embrace discomfort as part of growth. Physical strain, mental pressure, and emotional stress are treated as training tools. Discomfort is not enjoyed, but it is respected. It signals progress. A victim interprets discomfort as a sign to stop. Pain is avoided rather than understood, limiting development. Responsibility is central to the warrior mindset. A warrior takes ownership of outcomes, even when circumstances are unfair. This ownership creates power. If something can be owned, it can be changed. A victim shifts responsibility outward, blaming people, systems, or luck. This removes pressure, but also removes control. Training also requires structure. Warriors build routines that support readiness. Sleep, nutrition, practice, and reflection are intentional. These routines reduce dependence on motivation. A victim relies on emotion and impulse, which fluctuate. Without structure, consistency collapses. A warrior trains for resilience, not convenience. Strength is built before it is needed. Preparation happens in calm moments so that performance is possible under pressure. A victim reacts only when forced, often unprepared and overwhelmed. Mental training is as important as physical training. A warrior observes thoughts without being controlled by them. Fear, doubt, and hesitation are acknowledged but not obeyed. A victim allows these thoughts to dictate behavior, mistaking emotion for truth. Warriors focus on what can be controlled. Effort, attitude, and response are within their command. External events are not. Energy is invested accordingly. Victims focus on what cannot be controlled, leading to frustration and helplessness. Failure is part of training for a warrior. Mistakes are studied, not feared. Each failure provides feedback. A victim avoids failure at all costs, which results in stagnation. Fear of failure becomes fear of action. A warrior's identity is built through effort. Self-respect grows from keeping promises to oneself. Each disciplined action reinforces this identity. A victim's identity is shaped by circumstance, reinforcing a sense of powerlessness. Training like a warrior also involves patience. Progress is gradual. Results are not demanded instantly. The process is trusted. A victim seeks immediate relief or reward and abandons effort when it is not provided. Emotional control distinguishes a warrior from a victim. Warriors feel emotions deeply but do not allow them to override judgment. Victims are ruled by emotional reactions, which dictate decisions and behavior. A warrior understands that strength is earned daily. It is not a one-time achievement. Training continues even when results are not visible. A victim stops when recognition is absent. Life will test everyone. Hardship is guaranteed. The difference lies in preparation. A warrior meets hardship with readiness. A victim meets it with surprise and resentment. Training like a warrior is not about aggression or domination. It is about self-mastery, mastery of impulses, fears, and habits. This mastery creates freedom. A victim remains trapped by uncontrolled reactions. Every day offers choices that shape identity. Choosing effort over excuse, responsibility over blame, discipline over comfort. These choices are training sessions. Over time, they determine whether one becomes resilient or resentful. A warrior does not seek sympathy. Strength is internal. Validation is secondary. Victim seeks understanding and agreement, reinforcing helplessness. The warrior path is demanding. It requires honesty, consistency, and endurance. It does not promise ease, it promises capability. The victim path offers temporary comfort, but long-term limitation. Training like a warrior transforms how life is experienced. Challenges become meaningful. Pressure becomes sharpening. Difficulty becomes expected rather than feared. The victim mindset collapses under pressure because it was never trained to carry weight. Choosing to train like a warrior is choosing to stand upright in adversity, to meet life directly, to build strength before it is demanded, rather than wishing for circumstances to change or hoping for rescue. When difficulty arrives, every person is governed by something. If it is not conscious self-mastery, it will be unconscious weakness. Weakness does not need permission to rule. It takes control through habit, impulse, and avoidance. Self-mastery, however, must be chosen deliberately and practiced daily. The struggle between these two forces shapes the direction of a life. Weakness often hides behind comfort, art, and familiarity. It persuades the mind to seek what is easy, familiar, and immediately satisfying. This persuasion feels natural because it aligns with instinct. Self-mastery feels unnatural at first because it requires resistance against impulse. It asks the individual to pause, evaluate, and choose with intention rather than react automatically. To master oneself is to develop awareness. Awareness of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors as they arise. Without awareness, weakness operates freely. Impulses go unquestioned, emotions dictate actions, and habits repeat without examination. Awareness interrupts this cycle. It creates space between stimulus and response, where choice becomes possible. Emotions are powerful forces. When unmanaged, they control decisions. Anger leads to regret, leads to avoidance. Desire leads to distraction. Weakness thrives when emotions are allowed to rule. Self-mastery does not suppress emotion but understands it. Emotions are signals, not commands. Mastery means listening without obeying blindly. Habits are another domain where weakness exerts control. Repeated behaviors shape identity. Small indulgences, repeated daily, become strong chains. These habits feel harmless until they define behavior. Self-mastery recognizes the cumulative effect of small actions and chooses habits deliberately rather than accidentally. Discipline is the foundation of self-mastery. It is not harshness or punishment, but consistency. Discipline aligns actions with values instead of moods. Without discipline, intentions remain theoretical. Weakness thrives in inconsistency, where rules change based on how one feels in the moment. The mind naturally seeks justification. When weakness leads, excuses appear convincing. Procrastination is framed as preparation, avoidance as self-care, and indulgence as reward. Self-mastery demands honesty. It requires confronting uncomfortable truths about effort, responsibility, and choice. Fear is one of the strongest sources of weakness. Fear of failure, rejection, discomfort, or uncertainty. When fear governs behavior, potential is restricted. Mastery involves facing fear repeatedly until it loses its authority. Courage is not the absence of fear, the refusal to be controlled by it. Desire also governs behavior when unchecked. Constant pursuit of pleasure weakens focus and discipline. Immediate gratification undermines long-term fulfillment. Self-mastery teaches delayed gratification, prioritizing what matters over what feels good now. Weakness is reinforced through external influence. Opinions, trends, and distractions pull attention away from inner direction. Without self-mastery, a person becomes reactive by circumstance rather than intention. Mastery restores agency, allowing one to choose responses rather than surrendering them. Self-mastery requires structure. Routines, boundaries, and standards create stability. Without structure, weakness fills the gaps. Structure reduces decision fatigue and limits opportunities for impulse to take control. The process of mastering oneself is continuous. There is no final state where weakness disappears. There is only ongoing awareness and adjustment. Complacency allows weakness to return. Vigilance maintains control. Self-mastery strengthens character. Each time impulse is resisted and a higher standard is chosen, self-respect grows. This self-respect reinforces further discipline. Weakness erodes self-trust, creating a cycle of doubt and dependency. Responsibility is central to mastery. Blaming others or circumstances shifts control outward. Accepting responsibility, even when unfair, restores control inward. Weakness avoids responsibility because it brings discomfort. Mastery accepts it because it brings power. Mastery also affects how one handles difficulty. Challenges are faced directly rather than avoided. Weakness seeks escape. Mastery seeks resolution. This difference determines whether problems compound or are solved. Over time, self-mastery simplifies life. Decisions become clearer because values guide them. Weakness complicates life through contradiction and inconsistency. Internal conflict replaces clarity. The cost of not mastering oneself is subtle but severe. Time is wasted, potential is diluted, and direction is lost. Weakness does not destroy life suddenly, it erodes it gradually. To master oneself is to lead from within. It is choosing awareness over impulse, discipline over indulgence, responsibility over excuse. It is the refusal to surrender control to temporary emotions or habitual patterns. When self-mastery is absent, weakness governs silently, shaping outcomes and limiting possibility, ensuring that comfort replaces growth and impulse replaces intention.